So now we're back again. I apologize for that. I just started recording. Okay. Again, and if you could just please keep your computer on mute. And if you're going to walk away from the computer, record it, do whatever, please, you know what I mean? It just kind of cost us 10 minutes here. So just please keep your computer on mute so we can all just get going here. Just going back into what we were looking at there, we're looking at the 5 different kinds of bone tissue there that I want you guys to know. There's osteoblasts with a B. They build bone. Okay. Just everything is coming out of the woodwork here. There we go. Osteoclasts. Okay. These ones here degrade bone. Osteoblasts with a B build it. Okay. Now, when that blood calcium gets up, we throw that calcium on the bones. The bones get stronger. If the blood calcium starts to drop too low, we start robbing the bones and dumping that calcium back into the blood. And these guys here, osteoclasts with a C, these ones here, they break down bone. Okay, giant multinucleated cells there function in bone reabsorption, breakdown of bone. They release calcium, phosphate, magnesium for other cells there to use. Okay, derived from the same hematopoietic stem cells that become macrophages. So you look at that heme means blood. Poietic means creation. Okay, so here we're talking about where the blood is made. Here you're talking about in the bones, right? When active cells are located in depressions called reabsorption bays, regulated there by the hormone calcitonin. And yeah, we're not dealing with endocrine until about week 13 or week 12, but welcome to it. The endocrine is coming at you right now, okay? We're going to look at some hormones there, and there will be at least 2 hormones there that you'll have to know for the next or for quiz 3. Okay. Cells there that they have these ruffled border there that serves to increase surface area for enzyme degradation of bone. Also helps to seal off area from surrounding matrix. We'll show you guys more of these. So you've got osteoblasts build bone, osteoclasts that degrade bone, osteocytes. They're the guys wearing the white hat. They're controlling the blasts and the class. These here are kind of the mature maintenance cells there in the lacuna that no longer divide. And these guys here, they're the managers of the blast and the class. Maintain bone matrix and act as a stress or strain sensor. The whole idea there that atrophy. Your body, if you're not using something, your body will take it away. That's why you have to just, you can get as big muscles as you want, but if you stop exercising, then your body will start to reduce those muscles. The same thing with the bone. If you're not putting pressure on the bones, osteocytes, their job is to feel the stress, feel the pressure. If you're jumping, running around, your bones are getting a stress workout. Osteocytes are detecting that stress of you running and jumping, this and that, so they will maintain the bone integrity. If you're not putting any pressure on your bones, then the body will rob the bones. It's saying there that, well, if our bones don't need to be this dense, then I don't need to keep wasting time, money, ATP, sugar, protein on maintaining a bone matrix that isn't strong. If you're not playing basketball, well then your bones aren't going to be as strong as you would like. Okay, so osteocytes, these ones here, they sense the stress and strain that you put on your bones, and these guys here, they are the big boss as far as maintaining good, strong, hard bones. Okay. Responds to mechanical stimuli such as increased force on the bone or weightlessness. Communicate information to osteoblasts and osteoclasts. Okay, these guys here are kind of the big bosses. Okay, osteocytes. And I apologize there, anyone there who just, I kicked everyone out. I didn't know how to do it. As far as no, there was somebody there who didn't have their computer on mute. So please make sure that your computer is on mute. Okay. If you have a question, unmute it. I'm all about that. But please don't walk away from your computer and leave it unmuted. Okay. And you know what goes on in your house is your business. And you know, if you have a question, ask. But just please make sure that from now on, just mute your computer, and away we go. So these guys here, they take up nutrients, rid waste, produce ATP, and they communicate there with other cells. So we got osteoblasts, osteoclasts, osteocytes. Haversian canal, Haversian system, osteon. That was this one right here. I'm just zooming in. Those circles, these ones right here. The whole idea there that the blood vessels, the nerve is laid. You'll have lymph in there as well. And then the bone grows around it. You can see it right here, right? And these are these osteons, Haversian canals, okay? Only found in the compact bone. So an osteon is a structural unit of compact bone, consists of an elongated cylinder that runs parallel to the long axis of the bone. Okay. Consists of several rings of bone matrix there. Those are your lamella. Okay. Those are those concentric rings there. They contain collagen fibers that run in different directions in adjacent rings there. You can see there that in the next slide there, you'll see that these collagen fibers, one of them will go this way. The other one will go this way. The other one will go this way. Because it's all about compensating for the torque of the bones. All right. Withstand stress and resist twisting. Okay. The bone salts there are found between the collagen fibers. And you have a look here. Okay. What's going on? There's a nice little video there. Please make sure to watch that video. It is mint. Okay. So if you're just watching this, you can pause it, watch it now, watch it later. But you'll see there that this is like a single osteon. There's your vein, nerve fiber. There's your artery, capillaries. You know, the bones are alive, right? And then you'll see the collagen fibers there moving this way and then that way and then different way. And it's all about being able to handle the pressure of playing basketball. That kind of a thing. Okay? And then there's your twisting force. Great slide. Great slide. Okay? So, classification of bones there we've seen. Those are long bones. These are the short bones. Irregular. Like, isn't that a strange one, eh? Here we're talking vertebra. Sesamoid bone, those are those free-floating bones there. Okay? And then you have flat bones. And you'll see that flat bones are quite different. You can obviously see there because of the color that, hey, this is a different bone from this one, and this is a different bone from this one. But really, I don't feel any difference. That's because as we're babies, these bones, they're kind of like, you know, coffee plates or dinner plates there that are just kind of sitting there, and eventually they harden up and fuse together so that we can't feel any difference. But I'm sure you've heard of baby soft spot, right? Yeah, we'll get there. Let's go, let's go, let's go. So, long bones. Here's the skinny on long bones. You'll see how these ones go. Okay, there's the regions of the long bone there. You have the diaphysis, epiphysis, metaphysis, medullary cavity. So you'll see where we're at here. The diaphysis is the area in the middle. Okay, and then you'll have on the ends, you have what's called the epiphysis. Okay, and you'll see there you have distal epiphysis, farther away. Here you have a proximal epiphysis, means closer to. Right here, talking the humerus. Okay, this is my proximal. Okay, epiphysis. This is my distal, farther away. Proximal, closer. Think starfish. Whatever's closest to the center is proximal. So you have your epiphyses there on the ends. Okay. And then you have the metaphysis that's in between the epiphysis and the diaphysis. That's where the most active growing happens. And you'll see there that as a child grows, right? And why am I saying from here? Because no child is like 1 inch tall. But anyway, you're talking the bones there, right? And you see that as the bone grows, okay, in the metaphysis there, that's where it's growing, and it grows out, and you'll see there that the diaphysis, that middle section, extends. Okay, so as an individual grows, the diaphysis extends in length because the metaphysis is where it's growing. You'll see there that there's what we call an epiphyseal line, epiphyseal plate. That's where the growing happens. Okay, and then you'll see there the epiphyses there on the ends, and you'll notice there that on the ends of long bones there you'll have what we call articulating cartilage. Articulating, right? Articulate means joint. Okay, you never want bone touching bone. Okay, you have to have cartilage on the outside of these bones there to protect them so that these bones can interact with other bones. Okay, if you don't have that cartilage there, what happens? You have bone touching bone, you get arthritis, and just the sound of bone touching bone makes my skin crawl. So going through this, you have your two epiphyses there on the end. You have your two metaphyses, okay, that separate there, the epiphyses there from the diaphysis, okay. Just going over some areas of the bone here. The outer covering of the bone is called your periosteum, okay. You'll notice there in the middle, there's your medullary cavity. Now, just looking at this individual here, is this an older individual or a younger individual? Will allow me to retort. A younger individual, this would be red, okay? Red bone marrow, because kids, young adults there like yourselves, you're actively growing still. So the whole idea there that would be red. That would indicate a younger individual. You see here, this is yellow bone marrow. This could sadly be mine. Okay, older individuals there, less red bone marrow. Okay, as we get older, and this turns yellow. Okay, and you'll see there that there's your compact bone around the outside. Okay, spongy bone there in the middle. There's your trabeculae. Okay, epiphyseal line. Okay, good. And more articulating cartilage. All right. Tissues of the long bone, cartilage, periosteum, endosteum there on the middle. Okay, and you'll see here on the inside shot, kind of just a blow up of what's going on here. Periosteum is on the outside. Endosteum, okay, that's on the inside there of the medullary cavity. Okay, articulating cartilage as well. How are we doing? Everything is good. We're all settled back into a groove. Factors that can affect bone growth? Absolutely. Okay, you are what you eat. If you do not know that, you know it by now. Okay, the whole idea there, I tell my kids every day, I say you got to have some live veg or fruit. You got to have a calcium source and you got to have a protein source. Okay, you got to have that. Those are three things there that you need every day, right? Diet, you need bone minerals, okay, calcium, phosphorus, magnesium as well, vitamin A, C, and D, all right? You need to exercise, and I don't mean you don't need to be Arnold Schwarzenegger every day, but you just need to go and put some weight on your bones. You have to, because then your body will sense, hey, these bones, this guy's putting stress on on these bones, I need to maintain them, and that's what the body will do. Weight-bearing exercise that increases bone density and increases production of human growth hormone, okay? We have what's called peak bone mass in and around our 30s. Okay, once you hit 40s though, your bone naturally starts to there's more osteoclasts than osteoblasts. When you're younger, there's more blasts than clasts because your bone is building. When you get older, there's more clasts than blasts. So our bones are it's a natural process to become more porous. It's your job to stop it. Okay. Hormones, insulin, thyroid hormones, androgens during puberty. Oh boy, we're going to get into all of these at some point in time. Not so much today. Ossification. There's that word again. Bone growth. There's two kinds of bone ossification there, and it has to do with long bones and flat bones. You'll see there that there is what we call intracartilaginous ossification. And then there's also intramembranous. Membranous, that's for flat bones. Cartilaginous there, that's for long bones. Both rely on the hormone calcitonin, produced by the thyroid, which regulates the metabolism of the body's most abundant mineral, calcium. Like, calcium is so important, we just don't throw this stuff out. There's two hormones that are involved in its regulation alone. Like Mama always said, you gotta eat, drink milk there because it gives you strong bones and strong teeth. Well, what Mama didn't tell me there is that if I don't eat calcium, then no neuron would fire. No muscle would fire. Okay, that's how important an atom ion nutrient this is for us, okay? High concentration of calcium in the blood initiates the production of calcitonin. High blood calcium, calcitonin hormone drops the amount of calcium in the blood. We just don't throw that out. Where do we put that calcium? On the bones. Okay, so calcitonin is a hormone involved in lowering blood calcium. I'd write that one down. Yeah, that's a good one. Intercartilaginous ossification. Excuse me. When calcium and phosphorus, that's the atomic symbols there for these guys. Remember chemistry there, week 1 or 2? Okay, so when calcium and phosphorus calcify along the cartilage there in a developing fetus beginning around the 5th week after conception. Okay, so it's what we call intercartilaginous ossification. Okay, it's called calcification. Okay, with vitamin D. Okay, you don't absorb any calcium unless you have vitamin D. So you can take all the calcium you want in the world, but if you don't have any vitamin D from the sun, you get your 20 minutes, then you won't be able to absorb that calcium. So make sure that's where your vitamin D, 20 minutes in the sun. Absence of any of these there causes rickets there, bone disease there. Okay, blood supply brings osteoblasts that then attach themselves to the diaphysis and then to the epiphysis, which forms the epiphyseal line, okay, to form the metaphysis, where all further bone growth occurs, okay? So the blood brings in these osteoblasts that then migrate to the epiphyseal line, and that's where bone growth occurs. Intramembranous ossification. Here we're talking about the flat bones, and the great example there is of the skull. And you'll see there that when baby's born, you'll see that these skulls here are really not connected, and there's actually holes in baby's head. And there is. It's called the anterior fontanelle, and there's a posterior fontanelle. And you know what I mean? You can just put a finger right through, and then there's baby's brain right there. And you see? Babies are quite strange. I love my kids, but the whole idea is that as adults, our head is about 1/8 of our body length. Children, their heads are about 1/3. Much bigger proportion as a child our head is than it is as an adult. And you'll see there that these bones here are quite spongy. There's no hardness to them at all when baby's born. And what happens is these bones, these flat bones there, then when they touch, they'll start to creep over, and that's the whole hardening process. And then eventually there in your teens, and you hit puberty, that's where these bones start to harden. Occurs primarily in the flat bones of the skull. Okay, there are no Haversian systems. There's none of those. These guys here, these osteons. You see these circles? These flat bones don't have them. These are only in long bones. Okay? And the skull and mandible, the fetus there, are first membrane. That's how these ones work. Blood supply again brings osteoblasts, which attach themselves to these membranes, and they ossify from the center outward. You see? Ossification occurs from the center outward. Okay, and then these will eventually harden up like they have in my old person head here. Okay, but you'll see that as a child, they're not 100% hard. And you know, the whole idea when you're talking, I think you're starting to see a theme there that, you know, prepubescent individuals, their bones are not hard, right? And you can go on YouTube and you see these silly parents. I don't know what they're doing. Like just their child, 8-year-old boy or girl, is exercising, you know, with weights. Exercising, sure, but they're using heavy weight. And you know, you see this 8-year-old kid that's like super jacked. You know, he's got muscles on muscles. Well, you know, it's not really a good thing because those bones are soft. And if you're lifting heavy weight, what you're doing is those bones are gonna bend. And then when this individual does get to be 13 or 14 and hit puberty, those bones will solidify bent. And these bones here are all about the physics. These, like look at these bones here. Why in goodness sake does that bone look like that? Like it's got ridges and costal grooves. You know, this is a rib bone, right? And you look, it's not perfectly straight. It's got all this scratches and tubercles and I'm not going to ask you about these, you know, costal angle and costal groove and facets and, you know, it's got all this thing going on. And if you destroy the integrity of the bone, okay, if you alter its shape, you remember I was talking about there that the whole point of a bone there is to disperse stress, right? You're jumping, playing basketball, and those jolts of stress are coming up your leg. Well, the physics of your leg and the leg bone there and why it looks like it does, because it disperses the force. But if your bone hardens in a shape other than nature intended, now these people, when they get older, these little kids there, their bones are going to fuse in a shape that nature didn't intended. They're going to have fractures their whole life. So you just gotta know these things, and now you do. What I want you guys to know there from this one, intramembranous ossification, the whole idea of flat bones meeting and creating a joint. This is what we call an immovable joint. You know, I can't just move my parietal bones here and my temporal bone there, you know what I mean, as much as I'd like to, but it's what we call immovable joints, which we'll get into joints there towards the end. Okay, these fontanelles, these are these baby soft spots. Okay, anterior fontanelle, posterior fontanelle, just know fontanelle. Some basic skeletal terminology, sutures. The whole idea there that when these flat bones come together to form a joint, right? Like they right now as a child they're not, but they will eventually fuse to form an immovable joint. We now call those sutures. Okay? Immovable joints that hold the bones of the skull together. That's all you're talking about there. We'll get more into those as we go. There's a fossa, which is called a depression in and around a bone. Foramen is a hole in the bone. We have holes in our bones all over the place. We have a big one there at the bottom of our skull. If we could just take our head and just have a look at it, but we couldn't because our eyes are in our head. So, you know, but you see what I mean. There's a big hole in the bottom of our skull. We have big holes in our hips that allow blood vessels to come through. We have little ones in our face here that allow blood to get from one side of a bone to another. We call these foramen. Show you these there. Canal, large passageway through bone. Sinus, chamber there within a bone. We have lots of sinuses in our skull. Okay, there's lots of empty space, more mine than yours. The whole idea there that if our head was a solid piece of meat and bone, we'd all be walking around with broken necks. Okay, because our cervical vertebrae can't handle much. So there's a lot of air pockets in our head there, which allows us, it makes our head lighter than, you know, it appears. Articulation, another word for joint. Okay, articulate, and a facet. You'll see there that you'll zoom in. You know, here we're looking at a vertebra, and you see right here, you see this abnormally smooth space there. It looks like something needs to go there. Well, it does. Okay, it's part of the rib. Will go there. Okay, your ribs attached there to your spinal column. Okay, and you'll see there that that is another place there for an articulation. Okay, and there's an articular facet right there. Bone supposed to meet bone at this particular spot. Perfect. Let's get into it, shall we? Axial skeleton. That's kind of the background there of what I want you guys to know. Now we can just go in. And now, none of this you have to remember. Okay, you just need to know where to find it. But I love all of these. Okay, and it's your job. You've got to know them. And eventually, at some point in time, you'll have to memorize them. But not today, not for this class here. You just need to be able to dig through the PowerPoints and answer the questions, right? So, cranium. We'll get into more detail, which you've already seen. Facial bones, sure. Clavicle, that's your shoulder bone there that we saw earlier. Backside, scapula, sternum, rib, humerus, vertebra, radius, and ulna. And you have a look here. Remember your anatomical position. Remember the whole idea, you're standing straight and the thumb is out. Have a look at where your radius is. Your radius is closest to your thumb. Your ulna is closest to your pinky. All right. Phalanges, fingers and toes. Metacarpals, wrist. Metatarsals, foot. Carpals, there's your wrist, and tarsals there for the ankle. Then you've got your femur, patella, tibia, fibula, and you'll see that we'll get into those there. The main bone there, the lower foot, is the tibia. The fibula is just there for balance. Okay. We'll get more into these as we go. There's the backside. Okay, same stuff. Just having a look. Okay. There's your scapula, flat bone there, protecting there the back of the shoulder. And again, ribs, humerus. There's a better shot there of your vertebra. There are the bones there, the pelvic girdle. There's your hip bone there, your sacrum, and your coccyx. Okay, coccyx is actually a number of bones that at puberty there they fuse together. But let's keep on moving. Cranium num num num. You'll see there, we've got the frontal bone. You've got your occipital bone, and you can actually feel in the back of your head right here, there's a little groove, a little ridge called your occipital protuberance. Okay? Interesting there. Sphenoid bone. That one there is inside. I'll show you. There are some weird ones of the skull. We'll show you some of these. They're quite cool. Ethmoid bone. There's another one there. You have these bones inside that you can literally, if you could somehow remove the front of your face, you could just pull out these bones that are just sitting there. You have your parietal bone. You have two. You have a parietal bone on this side. You have a parietal bone on the other side as well, in the same position, just opposite. Temporal bone. Again, you'll have another one on the other side as well, connecting there to the zygomatic arch. Okay, and you'll see there different bones of the face. If I can kind of zoom in, you've got your mandible, and you see there's one of those foramens right there. You see that you can see right in there. That allows blood there to get from one side to the other. Okay, there's your maxilla. Okay, zygomatic bone. Okay, you've got, there's your sphenoid bone back in here. Nasal bone is in here. Lacrimal bone. I'm not going on, you know, as far as bones of the skull, I'm not going to go into what goes on in here. It gets a little hectic. Okay, and I'm not too concerned. But any of these bones there of the skull itself, game. Maxilla, mandible, game. Okay, love it. Temporal bone, occipital bone. And you'll notice there, you'll see the sutures. Okay, and you remember there as children there, you know, those aren't fully formed, but as we get older, you know, these bones, they creep in and they fuse and they harden. And you'll see there that in between the frontal and the parietal bone there, you have the coronal suture. We go into all these as well. Okay, there's a better slide there. You'll see that you've got the squamous suture. Just moving things here. Okay, there's a better slide there with all these ones here, but we'll have a look at all these. All these are fair game. And where I would ask you, I said with the skull, the jaw, I'm really not going to go to, and I wouldn't ask you guys anything really in here because it gets a little confusing. So sutures are these immovable joints there that hold the bones of the skull together. So here's your sutures right there. Again, this is just kind of the different side there. There's your frontal, parietal, temporal, occipital. Okay, and you'll see the sutures that are involved. And on a test there, absolutely, I would ask you, you know, what suture separates there the frontal from the parietal bones. You would say the coronal suture. Okay, what separates the parietal from the temporal? That is your squamous suture. Okay, and again, you don't have to memorize any of this there. You just got to know where to dig. And the nice thing about these quizzes is that you basically, you know, it's only 2 weeks of information. So you're limiting yourself to those 2 weeks and you can dig around. And hopefully there, if you guys forgot, I'll just remind you again, Control F. See what I just did there? I'll do that again. You hit the Control button and then hit the F button and that pops up. And if I just want to type in suture, suture, and what slide is that? That's 25. And it just digs through the whole PowerPoint, and there you go. You can find all the sutures there that you want. Okay. Now remember, Control F does not work for photographs. Okay. It only works if the word has been typed into the PowerPoint. Okay. So just take note of that. So there's your different sutures. Love them, hate them. You'll see them again. Just another shot here of the skull. Everything is good to go, most part. As I said, I'm not going to hit in here too hard, okay, if at all. But everything else, fair game. Good. Backside, just another shot there. There's your occipital bone in here. There's your parietal and your parietal. Okay, the front side there is your frontal bone, and then there's your two temporal bones at the side. You'll see all the sutures involved. Okay, sagittal suture separates there the one parietal from another parietal all the way down. And you see how this bone grows together, right? It's very erratic and irregular. It's not like it's a flat line. That's just how the bone goes. You break a bone and you go in to have surgery to have the bone fixed. Well, what does a doctor do? You take the one part of the broken bone and the other broken bone there, and all a guy does is just puts them together. And then they put a cast on it, or they immobilize it in some fashion. If the break is quite severe, then they might put pins or screws or, you know, something in there to hold it together. But then it's always immobilized with a cast or some type of, you know, device. And then the bone just does what it does, right? You put this bone here and this bone here. Hey, I remember you. I remember you too. You know, and it just creeps and crawls and then it fuses. Okay. Just another shot, like probably overkill, but if you didn't like the previous one, and you know, but you'll see. Have a look at that one. There's your mental foramen. Remember those foramens there, just holes in the bone. So have a look at that. They're all good to go. The sphenoid bone. This is why I'm not really going for anything in this area per se. This is the sphenoid bone, and you'll see where we're at as you know, the kind of the roadmap diagram. It's on the inside front. And what an amazing looking bone, isn't it? Okay. And I'm not testing you on this in any way, shape, or form, but I just thought it was very cool. Next one there will be your ethmoid bone. And this one here, you'll see this one is right in here, but behind the eyes. Look at that one. Beautiful, eh? Not testing you on it, you know, but just thought it was cool. The foramen magnum. You see the size of this hole. If you, as I said, if you could just lift your whole head up and have a look, you'll see there that this hole there in the base of the skull, you can see there that it has these little steps there that allows our head to rock and sit on our first vertebra, okay? Our cervical vertebra there, you know, that we can do all this kind of stuff with our head. But this hole right here, it's a massive hole, it allows for the spinal cord to come right up into our skull because the spinal cord's got to meet the brain, right? So, cool. The foramen magnum. Not the biggest hole in our body. As far as holes in the bone, the biggest ones there are located in the pelvis. Those are called the obturator foramen, the biggest foramen in the body, obturator hips. So here's just a shot of the infant skull here. Okay, you have a look. And again, we're talking about these fontanelles, and you'll see there. Okay. Moving on, vertebral column. Okay, there are 5 main parts. There's the cervical section. Okay, there is the thoracic section there, encompassing there the ribs and the thorax. We have the lumbar, which is the lower back. That one there gets damaged a lot. Okay, so I'll talk more about that. If you're ever going to be picking up anything off the floor, please make sure to bend your knees. You have your sacrum and then your coccyx down here. So there's 7 cervical vertebrae, and we label them C1, C2 to C7. That's how we do it. Oh, this guy's got a fracture in C5. That means there, the 5th cervical vertebrae, we have a breakage. There's 12 thoracic. Okay, T1 to T12. You have 5 lumbar. So you have L1 to L5. Then you have sacrum and coccyx, S1 to S5, CO1 to CO4. Okay, so that's what we've got going on in the as far as protection there. Bones for the spinal column. Functions: encloses and protects the spinal cord, supports the head, and it's also an attachment point there for ribs, the pelvic girdle, muscles there of the back. Perfect. How many vertebrae are there in infants and children? Well, there's 33 vertebrae there for infants, only 26 for adults. And you'll see there that as children there, these bones here tend to be separate. But as we get older, the coccyx there and in the sacrum there, they fuse, becoming one bone. So that's why we have less bones in adult, more bones in the children, eh? Intervertebral discs. These are these fibrocartilage. There's different kinds of cartilage. This cartilage here is not the same as this cartilage here, which is not the same as these intervertebral discs. Okay? The bones there, the vertebrae, they don't touch. They're all separated there by these fibrocartilage discs there that just act as cushions. Now, these discs can slip out, okay, causing bone to touch bone. They can go and pinch on a nerve because you have all these nerves coming off of the spine, right? Okay, so you just have to be careful. They provide shock absorption and protect the vertebrae. So you have a look here, some of the 2 cervical vertebrae that I want you guys to know, and you have to think there that we have all these sinuses in our head because our head can't be too heavy, because these cervical vertebrae that we have, they're like chicken bones. They really are. They can't take a hit. They're not there for heavy. They're there for mobility. That's it. And you'll see there that we have C1 and C2. C1, the very top one there, you'll see what's going on here. You see these 2 little ridges right here? Well, let's just go back to here. That's what the skull sits on. Okay, those 2 ridges right there, they fit right onto here. Okay, and that's what the skull sits on. The atlas is the first one, C1. It is involved in the yes motion. That's because of the atlas. Okay, the axis, also known as the dens, okay, it has these kind of teeth to it there that it fits right on, and it allows for this motion here. No. Okay, so atlas, yes. Axis, no. Okay, very good. And this is I'll zoom in. this is kind of how the spinal column works here. You'll see that there's your spinal column coming all the way down, right? And then you'll see these cranial or these spinal nerves that come off. You've got spinal nerves coming off there at the in cervical and the neck. You have spinal columns coming off there in the thoracic section. You have spinal nerves coming off there in the lumbar region. And these nerves that come off and they provide feeling and sensation and message transmission between the outside world and our internal. That's what these spinal nerves do. Okay, so the and you remember those articulating facets, faces there, those smooth parts of bone there where it looks like bone is supposed to go and meet bone, and it does. You'll see how these vertebrae work. There's a rib bone, okay, comes in. There's the front of the rib, comes around, okay, and you'll see it attaches there at the vertebral column in two places. And that's how it provides encapsulation and protection there of our internal organs. Okay. Lots of good stuff here. Just want to zoom in and just have a look at what's going on. If this is your anterior, your front, this is your posterior. So this is, if you go and touch your back right now, this is what you're touching there. You'll see that these guys, they have what's called these spinous processes. And it's just a way of protecting. You see how these jet out? Okay? And it's all just a matter of protecting, you know, the good stuff. Spinal cord. All right, and you'll see here that they have what's called a vertebral body. Now, if you go back up in here to the C1, C2, there really isn't any type of vertebral body, okay, because these guys here are not involved in support, okay, but as you start to get down into thoracic, you know, you have vertebrae on top now, so there's a bit of support going on here. So these thoracic vertebrae, they're a little bigger. There's a little bit more to them, okay? Because they've got to support what's above them. That's the whole point, right? But it has a lot more. It has these facets there that articulate there with the ribs, as we just saw, okay? Moving on into the lumbar. This is the lower region now. These are the big boys. These are the bad boys. You see, there's really not a lot. There's less going on, and this is more about structure. These guys here, they have to hold all of these guys up. Bending, picking up things. People hurt their backs all the time. For goodness, I don't care if you're picking up a piece of, you know, a pencil. You have to bend your legs. You have to. Okay. Yep, so these are your lumbar of the lumbar vertebrae. Largest and strongest, okay, attachment there to the large muscles of the back, okay. These vertebral discs there, that's fibrocartilage, okay. Their interior is soft and elastic. It's all about shock absorption and protection, okay. So there's a nice little shot there of your vertebral discs. Axial curvatures. If you have what we call a lateral deviation of the spine, and from what I understand, we all have a form of scoliosis. This whole idea there that actually to the point where I think that even AI now can even, you know, film, we all walk differently, and just like a fingerprint, we are able to determine who a person is based on how they walk in their body positioning. Interesting, pretty scary, eh? So you'll see a lateral deviation of the spine is scoliosis. We all have some scoliosis to some degree. Obviously, in this individual here, it is quite severe. Okay, and then you have what's called kyphosis. Okay, and this is a deviation of the spine in the upper region. And then you can also have what's called lordosis. This is a deviation of the spine there in the lumbar region. I always throw a question on one of those, so you'll see that one again for sure. Scoliosis, kyphosis, and lordosis. The sacrum and the coccyx there, you can see how the number of bones there, and they fuse as an adult, okay? And yeah, you just have a look there. There's S1 to S5, and then CO1 to CO4. There's your sacrum, and then there's your coccyx. Nothing too crazy there, okay? You can see, well, you can see here that, this is a very strange looking bone. And it's all about muscle attachment, bone attachment, ligament, tendon, the whole thing. This thing is just wrapped up so tight. And you just think of where it is. It's in the bum region, right? And it's just wrapped up. You can't feel it. It's all completely covered with muscle attachment, ligaments, and bone. So, ligaments and tendons and all that, just covered up completely. The thorax, moving on into the skeletal system. Okay, I think, you know what? We'll just finish this right through, no breaks. So here we're talking about the rib cage, and you have a look here with the ribs here. The whole you'll see that the ribs here are bone, but then you have this cartilage right here. And the whole idea there that if you're going to look at a Hollywood mummy movie there where I'm coming at you, right? The Hollywood screws it up. The bone attaches there to the manubrium, but you'll see there in a 10,000-year-old mummy, this would all be degraded, right? Okay, it's because the bones. The rib cage expands, right? It has to have some elasticity to it, and that's what we're talking about right here. Okay, but anyway, let's go. Thoracic cage there, the skeletal portion of the thorax consists of a bony cage, sternum, costal cartilage, ribs, and bodies of thoracic vertebrae. It's all about protection, 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 and support for the upper shoulder region. Okay, and you'll see there we have what's called true ribs, 1 to 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, because they actually attach to, okay, the sternum. Then you have false ribs, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, these ones here all attach to themselves. Okay, and that's how that one works. Okay, they do not directly attach to the sternum. And then you have floating ribs down here, 11 and 12, that provide further protection, but they are not attached in any way to anything. Okay? And just the same thing as what I just did. Okay? Okay, so you got your true ribs here, 1 to 7, attached directly there to the sternum. False ribs there attach indirectly to the sternum by joining the costal cartilage of the rib above. Okay, and no attachment there to the sternum at all. So just next time you're watching a Hollywood movie like The Mummy, know that it is a bunch of crap because this is costal cartilage, and cartilage there is kind of organic, and once we die, the cartilage gets eaten. Okay. That's the ribs in a nutshell. Perfect. Good. We're on the way out. We're on the way out. We can see the light at the end of the tunnel. And remember, if you're watching this, you can stop and start the video as you like, right? Take as many breaks as you like. Upper arm. Okay. Here we've got the humerus. Okay, the arm consists of 3 bones there, the humerus, the ulna, and the radius. Okay, and you'll see that how the humerus attaches there to the shoulder girdle. Okay, there's the scapula, and there's a nice little facet there within the scapula, and that's how the shoulder joint works. It's what we call the ball and socket. Works the same way as the hip joint. Provides the greatest amount of movement. Okay, so and then moving on down there to the lower arm, and you remember your anatomical position. Okay, your thumb is always, your hand is always out, and thumb is always up. You'll see there that your radius is always closest to your thumb. Your ulna is always closest to your little finger. Yeah, I know that. Perfect. And I just did that one. It's good. Wrist and hand. I'm not going to go too crazy on this. I like all the big bones. What was that? Slide 44. Yeah. All this stuff here is pretty good. Like, as long as you know that wrist bones are carpal bones, perfect. Hand bones, these are metacarpals. These ones here, phalanges. works the same way the foot. Tarsal, ankle. Metatarsal, bones of the foot. Phalanges, toes. That's as far as I want you guys to know, okay, as far as those bones. Everything else, I love all this. Know it like the back of your hand, and I mean it. You know, you don't have to memorize anything for this course, but where you're going, you should know these major bones there. So yeah, that's where we're at right there. So I'm not going to go too crazy. I'm not going to ask you the lunate, the hamate, which I could, because it's kind of an open book test, but I'm not. I got lots of other stuff to get you on. That was supposed to be funny. Anyway, yeah, let's go. Hip bones here. The opening is formed there by the sacrum, ilium, and the pubis bone. You'll see where we're at right here. And again, it's all about protection, right? Like, you think of what visceral organs are sitting here. You've got your small intestines, large intestines, stomach, you know, your liver's up in here, kidneys for sure, okay, in the lower half. And, you know, that stuff it needs protection, okay? The pelvic protects the abdominal organs for sure. Yeah, good. And you'll see there that there's your femur, your upper leg, and it meets right in here. It's what we call the acetabulum. That's your ball. And then you'll see there that the hip bone there, it has the socket, and that's where it fits. And again, that's where your other ball and socket are. Okay, you have that great range of movement with these joints here, only found in the shoulder and the hip. Okay, just to let you guys know that this is remember we were already talking about it, the biggest foramen in the body. It's what we call the obturator foramen. Okay, and that's right in here. Allows for big blood vessels to come down the leg, okay, and allows for things to get from one side there to the other. Perfect. Let's go. This is an interesting slide there. The whole idea, like one of my undergrads was archaeology, and the whole idea there of going and digging up a grave from 1,000 years ago. You don't know, like, a whole idea. All you're going to see is a skeleton. Now, is that male or female? And it's actually quite easy to tell a male skeleton from a female skeleton. And it's all about the angle. And it's all about childbirth. Give the ability there to give birth. And you'll see there that the pelvic brim, right here, you can obviously see it's much wider in females than it is in males. Okay, it's very narrower. You see the pubic arch there. Okay, and yeah. That's it. Thought that was interesting. I don't want to go into too much detail, but skeletally, we can tell the difference, generally speaking. Lower limbs, moving on into the legs and feet. Boy, that light at the end of the tunnel is just getting brighter, isn't it? How many bones are we looking at there? You've got 30. There's your femur coming on down. Patella. Tibia is the big one. Fibula is the little guy at the side, okay? And then we get into the tarsals, metatarsals, and phalanges here, okay? Ankle of the feet, ankle and the feet there. And again, the whole idea there that these are your tarsals, ankle, metatarsals, and then your phalanges. I'm not going to go into anything crazy there other than I just love the word calcaneus. You'll see it again. That's your heel, calcaneus. Okay? 7 tarsals, 5 metatarsals, 14 phalanges. Good. Mineral homeostasis. So we've just finished up all the bones there that I want you to know for the body. Are there more? Did I not go into a lot of detail? And I went into enough detail. And that's where I want you. If you guys got all those, you're laughing. Okay? Now, I've already introduced the whole idea there of mineral homeostasis. You remember homeostasis, this whole idea there that the body is always watching. Okay? And the blood glucose, blood calcium, temperature regulation. The body is always watching and monitoring. And when the blood calcium gets too high, we get calcitonin. And calcitonin lowers the blood calcium. Where does that blood calcium go? It goes onto the bones. But then you'll see there's no turn-off switch. The blood calcium's dropping. Oh my gosh, I don't have enough blood calcium for nerve function or calcium function. So then what the body does, it goes to the bones and grabs calcium, throws it back into the blood so that the blood calcium starts to rise again. I can have calcium there for my nerve and muscle. And you say there's no turn-off, and there's always. It's going up and down, always being monitored. These are the two hormones that are doing it, and I will ask you these, so know them, okay? Calcitonin, we've heard that one there before, prevents osteoclastic activity. Osteoclasts break down bone. So calcitonin lowers, when the blood gets too high, the calcitonin drops and throws the calcium on the bones. When the blood calcium gets too low, parathyroid hormone, PTH, goes to the bones and robs the bones and brings calcium back into the bloodstream. So stimulates osteoclastic activity to break down bone, releasing calcium and minerals. So calcitonin lowers blood calcium. Parathyroid hormone raises blood calcium. Very good. There's lots more, but those two there, I'll get you on the next test for sure. All right. There's human growth hormone, IGFs, thyroid hormones. We'll get to all these. Insulin, sex hormones. Yeah, absolutely involved in osteoblastic activity. But we'll get there. For the time being, those two. Types of fractures and breaks. There's 4 labeled here, but there's actually 6 or so, depending on what source you read. Green stick fracture, you'll see it there, occurs. Oh my gosh, just brutal. But you'll see green stick fractures there. That occurs there in children. Okay, their bones aren't hard yet, so it's kind of like a green stick there from a tree. It doesn't fully fracture. Okay, you've got what's called a transverse break, which goes all the way through, perpendicular there to the lining of the bone. You've got a spiral fracture. This one here is not a good one to have because what's on the inside of bone? Bone marrow, blood, right? And if you break it here in a transverse, you look at the surface area of the inside of the bone. Look at the spiral. Look at the surface area that's now open. That's a real not a good break to have. One of the worst ones to have is what we call a comminuted. Okay, it's where the bone has been smashed, and like a car accident, the whole idea there that the bone has to be placed back together bit by bit by bit. Okay. You can have open and compound fracture. This one here is kind of the worst of them all because, if you break a bone, the whole idea there is that you haven't punctured the skin, so there's no microbial activity, there's no infection, all right? But when you get an open or compound fracture, okay, that's where the bone jets out through the skin, so now you're not only dealing with a broken bone issue, you're dealing with an infection issue. Okay. This movie here is really, 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 really good. So if you haven't seen this video, please pause the movie and give it a watch there when you get a chance. Osteoporosis, the whole idea there that osteoclast activity is greater than osteoblast, where the bones are robbed of their calcium and mineral deposits and they become porous. So osteoporosis, you have to fight this as you get older because it's a natural body process. You need to have a daily source of calcium and protein every single day. Okay, enough there for your bones to maintain that bone matrix. As well, you can drink all the milk you want, but if you don't put pressure on your bones daily, your body will go, I don't need to have heavy bones. This guy doesn't do any activity anyway, so we can rob the bones. I don't need to put any effort into it. So make sure, calcium source and put pressure on your bones. Joints and movement. They're what we call fibrous or what we call syndesmosis joints. There is absolutely no movement. These are in the skull. You've seen these. Okay, these are called sutures. Those are fibrous or syndesmosis joints. There are cartilaginous. There are two kinds of cartilaginous joints. There is synchrondosis and symphysis. Synchrondosis, no movement. Ribs and the sternum. Like, okay, I can kind of move them, but I can't wiggle my spine, or I can't wiggle my, my sternum. There's no movement associated with it, right? There's what we call symphyses, where there is slight movement. And this happens there, intervertebral disc and the symphysis pubis. That is what, slide 52. I just want to go back to here, the symphysis pubis. Where did that go? Oh, yeah, right here. You'll see right in here. This is what we call the symphysis pubis. And it doesn't move, but it can open or close a little bit in the event of childbirth to assist in that process. So there's slight movement, not a lot. Okay. So fibrous, syndesmosis, no movement, skull. Cartilaginous, synchrondosis, no movement, ribs and sternum. Symphysis, slight movement, intervertebral disc and symphysis pubis. Okay, there's a little bit of movement there. And the synovial joints, synovial fluid. I'm sure you've heard of that. Also known as diarthroses. These ones here are free moving. Knee, shoulder, anything there like these guys here. These are what we call synovial joints. They have synovial fluid in them. Okay? And you can see here if you just want to know all the different joints here, synovial, cartilaginous, fibrous. Have a look at these there, get to know them. So these synovial joints there are also called diarthrosis. Okay, highly movable synovial cavity, synovial fluid, articulating cartilage. You can see it right there. We never want bone touching bone. Arthritis is when this cartilage starts to degrade. And then you have bone touching bone. Oh, it's not good. Articulating capsules for sure. A meniscus there, channel flow of synovial fluid. All right, and you'll see sometimes there, if you work on your knees, like you're cleaning floors or something like that, you'll see this fluid in here. What will happen if you're working on your knees, you'll get what's called a bursa. This buildup of fluid there. It's just an irritation. You're putting too much pressure on the joint in a particular area, so it will produce this little bubble. Okay, ligaments there. Ligaments, tendons. We'll get more into those there when we get into muscle there next week. Okay, and what they attach to. Bursa, thin lubricated fluid filled cushion there at the friction point between bone and soft tissue. Okay. Types of joints here. There's 6 of them there that I want you guys to know. There is what we call the gliding, the hinge, the pivot, condyloid, saddle, and ball and socket. Okay, so this is your gliding or plane joint, and you can see how this one works here. And I'm not going to ask for the joint itself. I don't think anyway, because I'm not going into, these are the bones there of the tarsal and metatarsal of the foot, and I'm not going into the navicular or the cuneiform or any of these though. But you'll see there that a gliding or a plane joint, it just slides on a flat surface. Okay. Here we're talking about there the bones of the foot. Okay, tarsal. Then we have what's called a hinge joint. I like this one. Okay, hinge, there's your elbow. And you see that's as far as you can move your elbow. Up, down. That's what we call a hinge joint. Then we have a pivot joint. And you'll see what goes on here. This whole idea is in here. Sorry if I can show you. You see what's going on? It's pivoting in and around. And see the radio ulna. That pivoting ability there that it has. If you look here, it can move about on its own. Okay, so that's what we call there a pivot joint. You have I'm not so interested in a condyloid joint. Okay, again, you're dealing with the small bones there of the hands. Okay, you can see its motion there. Saddle joint, again, where it kind of sits like a horse saddle on a horse. It kind of moves back and forth like this. There's your ball and socket. Love this one. You'll see it for sure. Okay. And this goes into, you guys want to read about it. There's your gliding joint. There's your hinge joint. Okay, and how they articulate there. The articulating surfaces are flat. That's where that one there, it sits on a flat plane. Hinge joint there. There's your elbow, knee, some ankle, your ankle joint there. Pivot joint there. That's your radio-ulnar joint. Condyloid joint. Again, we're talking oval projection there of one bone fits onto the other. Okay, I'm not too interested in this one here. Like, I'm not going to ask you that joint right there. I will never ask you that joint. Saddle joint, I don't mind. Ball and socket, I love it. Okay. These ones here, joint movement, I'm sorry, but this ain't easy. But at least there, you can be able to know these know them in tandem, know them in groups of 2. Okay. Flexi, and there's if you can go on YouTube, I don't think I might have a movie. No, I guess I don't. But you can go on YouTube, have a look. The whole idea of flexion and extension. These are opposites. This is how I want you to know these. Decreases the angle, okay, between 2 bones. Bending of toes or fingers towards. You see how you're shortening that angle? The opposite is extension. Flex, extend. So these 2 are opposites. Know them like that. Abduction, adduction. These 2 are opposites. Okay? So abduction, movement away from the midline of the body. Think of your legs. You know, like there's that machine there at the gym that you can sit on and you can move your legs out or in, right? And it works the inside of the muscles or the outside of the muscles. If you're moving the legs away from the midline, away to the outside, that's called abduction. Adduction is you're moving your leg or arm towards the midline. Okay? Rotation, turning around an axis. Pronation, palm up to palm down. Strange, eh? Palm up to palm down. Foot up to foot down. That's what we call pronation. Supination, palm down to palm up. So there you go. There's some more there that I'm just kind of trying to do this with colors. There you go. Maybe you want to know them like that. Eversion and inversion. Turning of the sole of the foot out. Turning of the sole of the foot in. There's some more. Okay, you want to know these in groups of 2, but you guys don't have to memorize any of these. Okay, and then you've got circumduction. What joint is that associated with? That is with your ball and socket. This is the greatest combination of movement out of any of the joints there. And that's all we have there for today. I hope you guys are doing okay. Go back, watch the video again. There are some great videos embedded there within that will really help. That osteoporosis video, it is mint. Have a look at that. It'll take things there to a different level. But that's all we have there for today. I'm going to stop. Is there anybody there that has any questions? I'm going to stop sharing the PowerPoint and get back there to the main screen. The radio. Oh, okay. I like it. Sorry, clicked on. That's okay. No, that's okay. Everything's good. I think everything's good. If you guys don't have any questions, that's all we have there for today. The quiz will open up there this afternoon. It'll be due there next week. No changes to the quiz format as of yet. After reading week there, we'll make them a little bit more, we'll ask some different tasks of you. But as of right now, everything is good to go. And I thank you guys for coming in and stopping in. Have a wonderful week, and we'll see you there next week. And I'll let you know, keep your eyes peeled. I'll let you guys know when the quiz is out there this afternoon. Keep going on that assignment. I'll post the 2 videos soon, but please remember, The quiz is on weeks 3 and week 4 material only. Okay, so everything there that was from today, you'll see on the next quiz. Thank you guys. Have a wonderful day. Stay safe. Get a sweater on. It's a little chilly there today. Take care and be well.